welcome guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today we are going to be talking about data types in Python. In this video, I'm going to be introducing the different data types we have in Python and how you can manipulate these data types when performing your analysis in Python. If this is the first time you have seen my video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. I constantly share content on data science, financial analysis, and data analysis. If these are content you're interested in, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Enough of the talking, now let's get started.
So, what is Python? Python is the most used programming language in the field of data science for performing statistical analysis and for building models. We have other programming languages that are used by data scientists, but Python is the most used in the field of data science. So, when we talk about data, we are simply talking about operators that allows us to perform statistical analysis in the field of data science. Now, data is divided into two major parts, which we have the numerical data and the categorical data. The numerical data are simply our numbers, and our categorical data are simply our text and our alphabet. Now, in Python, we have various data types. The first data type we have in Python is called integers. So integers are simply our numbers. For example, we have an example here of 18. So 18 is a type of integer. So integers are simply our numbers. When we go ahead and run this now, you can see, okay, so we had no output here because this is in Markdown. Remember, in Python, we have Markdown, and in Jupyter Notebook Python, we have Markdown and code. So once it is on Markdown, it simply means that we are just trying to write text. But once we place it to code, it simply means that we are trying to code. So once we go ahead and run this, you can see that it gives us an output of 18. So the next data type we are going to be talking about is floats. Now, float is our decimal numbers. For example, let's say 12.8. So this is an example of floats. So any data type that actually has a decimal point is actually called a float in Python. So when we go ahead and run this, you can see that it will give us an output of 12.8, which is a float data type. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about today is the type function. So the type function is a function that is used in Python to determine or to know data type in Python. Now, for example, when we use type 18, when we run this, it will give us integer, which simply means that 18 is an integer. Now, to verify is 12.8 is a float, what we have to do is type 12.8. So when we run this, it simply means you see that the output is float, which simply means that 12.8 is a type of float. So the next thing we are going to be talking about today is variable assignment. So we can actually assign a data type to a variable. Now, for example, let's say we want to assign this 18 to a variable called int. So let's go ahead and say int is equal to 18. So when we go ahead and say print int, so when we go ahead and run this, the output will be 18 because we have successfully assigned 18 to the variable called int. Now let's do the same for our float 12.8. Let's say we want to assign 12.8 to a variable called flt. So what we have to do is flt is equals to 12.8. 12.8, then we go ahead and say print 12.8. So when we go ahead and run this, the output will be 12.8, which simply means that we have successfully assigned the float 12.8 to a variable called flt. Now, when we say we want to go ahead and reconfirm the data type using type, what we have to do is type, then we say flt. Then when we go ahead and run this, you will see that it returns a float, which simply means that the variable flt contains a data type called float. So this is actually how we perform variable assignment and using the type function in Python. So the next thing we are going to be talking about today is string. So string is a type of data in Python. So string actually refers to our text and our alphabet. Now, something you need to note when actually working with string in Python is this opening and closing column. So without this opening and closing column, you're actually going to get an error when you try to run a string. For example, let's say Haruna and go ahead and say print Haruna. Print Haruna. So when we go ahead and run this, you can see that the output is Haruna. Now let's try running this. Let's try doing this without adding this opening and closing string. So let's just say Haruna, okay? And let's just say print Haruna. Now it will give you an error telling you that the name Haruna is not defined. So when working with string, you must ensure to have this opening and closing colon. The next thing we are going to be looking at today is tuple. Tuple is also a type of data in Python. Now, when we talk about tuple, it is important to know that tuple cannot be modified. For example, let's create a tuple and let's call it Kate. Okay, no, let's just call it Ghost. So the variable can be anything. It can be any name of your choice, depending on, like, for example, if you're working in a real-time data set, it can be any name of your choice, depending on the data set you're working on, or any name of your choice you just want to use. But you should know that when you're working in a professional setting, all the names of your variables should be professional, and I would suggest that it should be related to what you're working on. But for the purpose of this lecture, let's just say gosh is equals to. Now, when you're working with top, remember that when you're working with list, we use this. But when you're working with top, we use the open and the close brackets. Now, for example, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we go ahead and say print gosh. Okay, so when we run this, you can see that it gave us an output of 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's go ahead and check the type. Gosh. So you can see that this is a tuple. Now for this, let's also go ahead and check the type for this data set. For this data, let's say type, okay, calculates. As you can see, it is. So the last thing we are going to be looking at today is dictionary. So dictionary is also a type of data in Python. So when we are talking about dictionaries, they can be modified, but they cannot be duplicated. Please take note of that. So when you're talking about dictionary, it actually works with keys and values. For example, let's create a dictionary. Let's call it dict is equals to. Now, when working with dictionary, please note that you use the curly brackets. Please, it is actually important to know the type of brackets you use when working with a tuple, a list, and a dictionary. Because if you use a curly brackets to work for a list, it will actually give you an error. And if you use a curly bracket for a tuple, it's actually going to give you an error. So it's actually important to know the type of brackets you're going to be using for each of the data type. Now let's go ahead and create a list. Let's say car, car brand. Okay. Let's say car brand. Let's say Ford. Okay. Show the car brand that we're going to use. Let's just say Ford as car brand. Then let's say car model. Then let's just say car color. Let's say blue. Like I mentioned, blue is my favorite color. And let's say car brand. Okay, no. Let's say car model. Let's say 2020 or not 2024. So let's say print date. So let's run this. So as you can see, we have car brand, Ford, color, car color, blue. CAM model 2024. Now, indeed, this is called our key, while this is called our value. So today we talked about the various data type we had. We So we have come to the end of the class today. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button below. Thank you so much. I'll see you in my next video.